You know, one day a few years ago, I was walking on the street in New York. I was on 33rd Street and Broadway, and I was actually going to teach my students at PS 116, a public school that I've been working with for a long time. I was walking, and it's a pretty confusing street, because the traffic comes from the left and the right at the same time, and in a way that's unusual in New York. And I was starting to cross the street, and there was a woman in front of me. And we had the light, but the cars were coming from a strange direction. And then from out of nowhere, a bike came out, and was just flying towards her. And she didn't see the bike at all, and just as it was in front of her, she jumped back, and the bike flew by her, and everyone was on the street a little shocked by it, because this woman came really close to getting hurt by this bike. And she turned around and started screaming at the guy on the bike. And then she started walking without looking. She was walking one way and looking the other way, screaming at the guy on the bike. And I was behind her, and a lot of people were around watching her because she was screaming. She was really angry. And then this taxi came out of nowhere, because it was just driving along, and everyone else saw the taxi. And, you know, New York is a pretty crazy place, so things are coming out of all different directions all the time. But she didn't see the taxi at all. And just as the taxi was about to slam into it, jammed on the brakes, she saw it and she jumped out of the way. The taxi hit her, and she flew into the air and smashed into a light pole. It was a very dangerous moment, and she got very lucky she wasn't hurt very badly. But she was okay. Really shaken up, though. A lot of people gathered around her, and we had to call an ambulance. It was a pretty scary scene. But, you know, she came out of it alive. But she made a very, very big mistake. Because a lot of time in life, unexpected things will happen to us. Sometimes a bus or a bike will come out of some direction that we don't expect it to come out of. And when that happens, we have to act instinctively and correctly. But don't make the second mistake. That lady didn't see the bike. And when it almost hit her, what she should have done is gathered herself, looked around, made sure nothing else was coming, and got into the sidewalk. But she got flustered, she got angry, and she made the second mistake, and it was almost the second mistake that cost her her life. And when I got to the school, I told my students that story, because there's a very important chess lesson to be learned from it as well. It's hardly ever the first mistake that costs you the game. The problem is that we get upset, we get emotional, we make more and more mistakes, and after 2 or 3 or 4 mistakes, we've ruined our position so terribly, there's no way to recover. I'm going to show you a game in which I did that. Take a look at the position. It was played in a game I played at the Marshall Chess Club in 1998. My opponent's name was William Paschall, a very strong player, but I felt like I was better than him. The whole game I was trying to win with the black pieces. I was a little overconfident, to be honest with you. This position is about equal. We were getting towards time control, though. We were both in time pressure. And here I started to play very aggressively. Too aggressively, in fact. So first of all, if I just go back and forth, the position is dead equal and we should just draw this game. That's the correct result. He's a strong player. I should know that. But instead, I tried to force things. I made my first mistake. I played rook takes c5. He played d takes c5. And now I started playing very aggressively with my king. I was trying to win at all costs. I played king b5. He played bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and knight a5. So now this was the idea that I had. I wanted to get into this position. It turns out it was a mistake for me to do it because, well, I thought my king was very active. In fact, in the endgames, you want to have a very centralized king. It's important to have a king in the center. Activity when a king is in the corner of the board, like if I run my king up, king a4, king a3, king a2, it's not good for me. That's not an active king. That's a forward king. There's a big difference. I went into this position because I thought it would be a chance for me to win the game. I played rook d3. My opponent defended his pawn with knight c4. I took the other pawn with rook takes h3. Here we were out of time pressure. He played knight d6 check, and it was my move. Now, take a look at this position. What would you play with black? Okay, I'm up a pawn, but he's attacking my king and he's attacking my pawn on f7. Once the f7 pawn goes, my e6 pawn will go. But I have an active rook, his a3 pawn is hanging, the position is very complicated and pretty level. I played king a4. And now he played the discovered check b5, going up the board. And I had seen this position a number of moves before, and I was thinking about things. I was playing very aggressively. I had played rook takes c5 earlier because I was trying to win the game. But here I made a decision just like that woman did when she almost got hit by the bike. What would you play with black? Take some time, figure out the best move. Okay, there are 2 options. One is king takes a3, and one is king a5. In the endgame, there are a lot of positions where you must simply calculate things out, because there are a lot of lines which are very forced. And here what I should have done is I should have calculated. If I play king takes a3, it looks like I'm going forward, but my king is no longer active. It's just out of the way. I've moved my king so far forward that it's not doing anything. Remember, a centralized king is strong, and a forward king can sometimes just be vulnerable. And I played king takes a3. Take a look at what happened, then we'll see what I should have played. My opponent just played b6. And suddenly we notice, oh my gosh, this pawn is so strong. This thing is 2 moves away from making a queen. Can I stop it? I played a takes b6, c takes b6. Then I tried to get my rook behind it, with rook check. Notice if I played rook b3 right away, he could simply force a trade of rooks with rook e3. And after the rook goes, there's no way for me to stop him from making a queen. So I played rook h1 check, king g2, rook b1. But sadly for me, my position is completely hopeless. He just played b7, and now after I played c5, trying to get my knight into the game with knight c6 to b8, he played rook c4. And there's nothing I can do. You might want to study this position a little because it's instructive. His next move is going to be rook takes c5, followed by rook coming down to the 8th rank supporting b8 queen, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. If I were to play knight c6, rook takes c5, knight b8, he simply plays rook c8. I'm going to lose this game. There's no way for me to defend everything. Notice that after my knight moves, he can always move his rook to a8 check, forcing my king to block my rook's defense of the b8 square. I'm completely lost. So after he played rook c4, I calculated things out, I saw I had absolutely no chance, and I resigned the game. I'm losing. You see how quickly I lost? The position was completely even. I made one mistake. But then I made another mistake. Now let's go back and see what was better. In this position, I played king takes a3. And to be honest with you, I hardly thought about the move. There were 2 options. One was to play king a5, which was a passive move, and one move was to play rook king takes a3, which was an active move. That was pretty much as far as I thought. And the reason was because I was emotional. I had already made one mistake, and I let the momentum build up against me. Remember that story of the woman and the bike. My correct move was simply king a5. He can't play b6 anymore because I'll simply take it twice. a b6, c b6, king takes b6. It doesn't do anything. So I've stopped his dangerous passed pawn. And after he plays a4, defending the pawn, notice his threat is knight b7 checkmate. I would just play c takes b5, a takes b5, and here I can bring my rook into the defense with h5. Once the h and g pawns are defended, my rook can come back to h8 and defend along the 8th rank. I have no problem. The game is level. It's a very complicated endgame which I've studied pretty deeply, but it's a draw. So you see, the position was equal, and I made one mistake, and I gave him some dangerous chances. But it's the second mistake that cost me the game. If I'd had a sense of danger, and had even thought about it, if I'd calculated king a5 out, I would have definitely played the move. I got emotional, let the momentum build up against me, and I threw this game away. So if you make a mistake and you realize it, take a deep breath. Maybe even get up from the board for a minute, stretch out. Then come back, take a deep breath again, relax, and find the right move. Don't let the momentum build up against you. It's the second and third mistakes that cost us the game.